Hey there, welcome to another edition of What's Hot with Tranquility. I am your host, Pete Pardo, publisher and CEO of SOT. Today is Saturday, March the 25th. Spring is here in New York, United States. We got some cranking new releases in the worlds of metal, mostly metal today. We also do lots of prog and jazz fusion and all sorts of cool stuff. But we've got a small handful of very important releases I want to talk about today. And we're going to get started with this brand new one. You hear it in the background from New York's thrash legends Overkill. It's called The Grinding Wheel, Nuclear Blast Records. You know, these guys have been around since, the early mid-'80s. They've just been kicking ass for so many years, taking no prisoners, and, putting out one release after another of just solid New York-style thrash. I've long been of the opinion now, when people talk about the classic bands of the thrash genre, they always go to the Bay Area. And that's deservedly so. Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, it's Exodus, Testament. But, Anthrax always gets a lot of credit. And, the German bands as well, Creator, Destruction. But, I know Overkill, a lot of people kind of put Overkill into that upper echelon. I certainly do. But, some people, they just kind of leave Overkill out of the discussion. Oh, thrash, yes, Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, Anthrax, the big four. Something, for my money, these guys have been putting out better music than most of them for a hell of a lot longer. I mean, throughout like the 90s, early 2000s, these guys have just been pumping out killer albums, while some of the others have stumbled a bit here and there. I know Megadeth, especially Exodus, Testament, have been putting out very good new material in the last like 10 or 15 years or so. We all know the Metallica story, right? Yeah, they've got a couple of decent albums they put out recently. That's debatable for some people. But, Anthrax, hit or miss. The last couple have been pretty good, but for a while there I was kind of like, what's going on with these guys? But, Overkill, this album, it's heavy. A lot of, this I love this tune. This is the kickoff tune. It's called Mean Green Killing Machine. Awesome. Riffs plenty, folks. All over the place. Bobby Blitz still sounds great on vocals. Overkill is still doing it, guys. Still doing it. Doing it mighty fine, I say. What I like about this album is a bunch of kind of like a little bit longer tunes that are just heavy. There's thrash on here. There's speed metal. There's, some almost doomy type stuff. And then just some classic heavy metal. I dig this a lot. There's the back cover, track list. It's a nice little nuclear blast production here. So, Overkill, The Grinding Wheel. Come the end of the year, this is going to be ranking pretty high up there. You heard it here first. All right, we're going to stick on Nuclear Blast Records. Excuse me. Actually, we're going to stick on Nuclear Blast for a couple here. So, the next one I'm going to talk about is called Atonement, also from a New York area band. Of course, I'm talking about Immolation, death metal legends. Another band that, for me, have never released a bad album. These guys were one of the mainstays of the early death metal scene, like in the early 90s. And they've just been, they may take a couple years to put out albums, but when they come out, man, they're freaking great. This is no exception. We got about a dozen tunes or so on here. First of all, check out that artwork. I love these Immolation albums. Most of them have really cool artwork. Bruisingly heavy. What I kind of dig about this album is, Immolation have had that ability in the past to do that kind of technical death metal thing, and they do it well. Do a little bit of it on here, but I think this album is just a little more heavy, grinding sort of thing, and I like it. But guitar work off the charts. Love the growling vocals. It's just top to bottom. There's not a bad song on it. This is going to be another top 10 release at the end of the year. For me, one of the best death metal albums that have been released so far here in 2007. So, Atonement, dig it. Love it. You should too. Go out and check it out. Okay, going to switch gears a little bit. We're sticking on Nuclear Blast Records. So this is the latest from Black Star Writers. It's called Heavy Fire. Of course, if you're a Thin Lizzy fan, you obviously are well aware of who Black Star Writers are. If you're not, shame on you. Basically, this is Scott Gorham and Ricky Warwick and a bunch of other guys who were still kind of keeping the Thin Lizzy flame alive, but they decided a few years ago, it's like, you know what, we're just going to go call this band something different and kind of blaze a new path, but keep the spirit of Lizzy alive. So that's what it is. I dig this a lot. This is their third album together as Black Star Writers. Might be their best. They're all really solid. It's just good 70s, early 80s style hard rock with blistering dual guitars. You know, Damon Johnson and Scott Gorham are a great team together. And the vocals are great. You know, Ricky sounds a little like Phil on it. Some people dig that, some people don't. It just keeps that sound, you know, that you remember. And good tunes. This might be the heaviest album of the three. There's some pretty crunchy tunes on here, but more importantly, they're memorable, good catchy choruses, and plenty of tasty twin guitar harmonies. That's what you want when you're listening to something like this. So I dig it a lot. Very infectious. A lot of really, really good tunes on here. The opening tune, Heavy Fire, sets the stage and pulls you in for the rest of the album. Probably my favorite tune on the album. Sometimes you worry when it's like the first tune is the best tune. I'm not saying it's the best tune, but for me, it's the most immediate song, and it's just a really, really good, memorable hard rocker. So dig it a lot. All right, from there, we are going to go over to Soul Food Records, okay, for a band called Sainted Sinners, their self-titled debut. So I'm going to, first, before I really get into the nuts and bolts of this, I love this album a lot, by the way, I'm going to tell you who's in the band. So a guy named David Reese on vocals. Of course, David sang for Accept for a little bit. He's on lead vocals here. We got a guy named Frank Payne on guitar. Guitar hero in the making. We've got on keyboards Ferdy Domberg. He plays with Axel Rudy Pell. And then on bass, we've got Malte Frederick Bergert on bass. And on drums, we've got Bercy Herleman. I'm probably pronouncing these names wrong. Both those guys are either still in or used to be in Perpendicular, which I believe is a Deep Purple tribute band. So what does this sound like? Well, Sainted Sinners, if you love early, mid-'80s Whitesnake and Burn-era Deep Purple, maybe with a little bit of UFO thrown in for good measure, that's what you got here. Kick-ass, ripping guitar, Hammond organ, powerful vocals, metallic, bluesy, heavy rock. Songs are great, instantly memorable. The guitar work is off the charts. Reese sounds phenomenal on vocals. It's got a good retro vibe, great Hammond organ. I dig this a lot. Like I said, if you love that classic mid-'70s Purple mixed with early '80s Whitesnake, you need this. You'll love it. Trust me. Sainted Sinners, self-titled. Check it out. All right, we're going to totally switch gears now. Some of you may, if you're a jazz fusion fan or a prog fan, you probably remember Jazz is Dead. Basically, it was this kind of like all-star jazz fusion conglomeration that recorded and toured, playing fusion-oriented covers of classic Grateful Dead songs, right? So now here we've got a new outfit called Jazz is Phsh, and their debut album is called He Never Spoke a Word. And you guessed it, basically these guys in this band are doing jazz cover versions of classic Phsh songs. So again, these jam band tunes given a jazz take. It's a lot of fun. You got like horns and keyboards and guitars, and just it's funky, it's jazzy, it's bluesy, it's a little jammy. So I dig it. A lot of good guitar work. The horns are great. A lot of fun. If you've never listened, if you're not a jam band fan, that's okay. If you're a jazz fan and a jazz fusion fan, and you want to just hear some really cool tunes, check this out. You don't need to have ever heard Phsh in your life. But if you're into the band Phsh, then of course you're going to want to check this out because you can hear some of these classic tunes. You got Ghost on here. What else we got here? McGilla, Alumni Blues, Doglog, Lawn Boy, A Letter to Jimmy Page, Meet. You'll know the songs if you're a Phsh fan. But I dig this a lot. Very, very cool. So that's the last of the new releases for today. So, of course, we're going to go to Forgotten Favorites, where we grab an album near and dear to me from yesterday that either never got its due back in the day, or maybe is a total underground release that I potentially love, or a very, very solid release from a band that everybody kind of talks about all their other releases, but not this particular one. So you may notice I'm wearing a Uriah Heep shirt today. I've been in a Uriah Heep mood for the last couple of days, and specifically I've been listening to this one a lot. It's the 1971 release, Salisbury. Okay, if you're a Heep fan, or maybe if you're not, obviously you know this album, but when most people talk about Uriah Heep, they always talk about Demons and Wizards and The Magician's Birthday, and maybe Very Heavy, Very Humble, or some of their other 70s albums. But one of the ones that doesn't seem to get mentioned often enough, except maybe when you're talking to real hardcore progressive rock fans, they always gravitate to this album because the title track is 15 minutes long or 18 minutes long, whatever it is. So, and they're like, oh, they can identify with that album. But most serious Heep fans, they love this album, but it never gets mentioned for whatever reason. But I dig this album a lot. I'll tell you why. First of all, it's a heavy album. There's a lot of good rockers on here, right? So you got Bird of Prey and one of my favorite Heep songs of all time called Time to Live. Heavy, rocking, evil riff song, okay? Then you got Lady in Black, the haunting, catchy, singable Lady in Black, which they still play live to this day. You got the rockin' High Priestess, really good tune. You got The Park. And then if you buy the the remaster, you've got the bonus track, the fun Simon the Bullet Freak, as well as a really cool rocker called Here I Am, plus other, odds and ends. But the main part of the album is the epic title track, which is just it's got horns and strings and a kick-ass killer mixbox wah-wah guitar solo. What I love about it is right before he hits into the lead break, you hear him click on the wah-wah pedal, and then there's a little bit of silence, and then screaming in with a guitar solo, wah-wah solo. It's just fantastic. And, for me, there's some tunes on here that feature some of David Byron's best vocals on any Uriah Heep album, in my opinion. So, this, like I said, this is an album sold well back in the day. Most loyal Heep fans love it. But it's just in casual discussions. Most people don't talk about Salisbury, but I've always dug it a lot. It's a little different album from some of their other more popular albums of the time period, but that's what I like about it. So it's heavy, it's rocking, it's progressive, it's got everything you need. Uriah Heep, Salisbury, a classic from 1971. With that, we're going to leave you till next time. I'll probably do another one of these new release shows, the What's Hot shows, in a couple weeks. I've got some interesting rants coming up over the next couple days to a week, so I don't want to give too much away. But I'm going to dip in a little bit into a little bit of heavy metal feud. So we got Queensryche versus Jeff Tate, Mike Portnoy versus Dream Theater. I'm going to give my take on some of these, as well as I'm going to talk about all these rumors of another Genesis reunion, and why I think that without Peter Gabriel and Steve Hackett, it's just a waste of time. So that and much else in the coming weeks. So be sure to tune in. Till then, be safe. Listen to all these great new tunes. Check out new music, always, but don't forget the classics. So be good. See you next time.